Chosen one, stop. Stop scrolling. Stop multitasking. Stop telling yourself you'll come back later. Because this moment is not here to entertain you. It's here to intercept you. Listen closely. Archangel Michael says there are moments where heaven reaches for you in a specific way, and if you skip it, it does not return the same way again. Not because God stopped loving you, not because you're being punished, but because the window that carried this message, this protection, moves on. And if you're hearing me right now, it means the window is open. You felt it today, didn't you? That strange heaviness on your body when you woke up, the air being too quiet, the sense that something is near, like your life is standing at the edge of a turn you can't fully see yet. That's not you being dramatic. That's not you overthinking. That is your spirit recognizing a shift in the unseen. Right now, there is a turning point moving closer to your path. And Archangel Michael was sent for one reason, to guide you safely through it. So don't leave. Stay with me until the end. Because what I'm going to say next is not about fear. It's about coverage. And I need you to understand this clearly. The danger isn't always a car crash or a tragedy you can point at. Sometimes the danger is subtler. Sometimes the danger is a collapse inside you. A breakdown that steals your peace, drains your focus, and makes you close doors you were never meant to close. And heaven is trying to stop that. Do you feel it in your chest right now? That pull, that pressure that isn't pain. It's like a magnetic tug, as if something is gently grabbing your attention from the inside. That's alignment starting. Now take a slow breath. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw release, because even your body has been bracing for something. And this is where the message begins. You may not realize how close you've been to the wrong step because you've been tired, emotionally tired, spiritually tired, the kind of tired you don't talk about because you've been the strong one for so long that you don't even know how to explain what you carry. You've been walking around with a smile that people mistake for peace. But you know the truth. You've been holding yourself together with quiet grit, and heaven has seen it. There is a line Archangel Michael wants you to hear. I was sent because you were about to walk into something you couldn't recognize, and I refuse to let you do it alone. Stay with me. Don't scroll. Because in a moment, I'm going to show you why things have felt strange lately, why certain people suddenly feel off, why your sleep has been inconsistent, why your intuition has been louder, and why the silence around you is not empty. It's loaded. And before we go deeper, I need you to know something. If you've been experiencing that sudden calm that appears out of nowhere and then disappears, that's not random either. That's heaven brushing past your spirit, like a hand on your shoulder, letting you know you're not abandoned. It's a signal, and there's a reason you were able to receive it today. Let me paint this clearly. When Archangel Michael shows up in someone's life, it usually happens when two things are true. First, something is shifting that you cannot yet see. Second, you are more valuable to the future than you realize, and the enemy knows it. So the enemy doesn't always attack you with obvious destruction. Sometimes he attacks you with confusion, with misdirection, with emotional exhaustion, with little triggers that push you to react in a way that changes your timeline, and you've been closer than you knew, to reacting. That's why this is a warning. Not because you're in trouble, but because you're about to be promoted into a new chapter, and the transition always carries pressure. Stay with me, right now. I want you to imagine your path like a road at night. You can only see as far as your headlights. And that's how faith works. God rarely shows you the entire highway. He shows you the next few feet. He shows you just enough to keep walking. But sometimes, heaven turns on a light ahead of you for one moment, so you don't hit what's in the road. That's what this message is. And I know you've had moments lately where you felt like you were standing at a fork. Two choices, two versions of your life, two possible outcomes. You've been thinking, if I do this, I might lose everything. If I don't do this, I might never move forward. That's the tension you've been living under, and it's why your chest has felt heavy. Now listen, there are people around you who have been smiling at you, but their energy hasn't matched their face. There are conversations that look normal on the surface but left you drained afterward. There are little moments that your mind tried to dismiss, but your spirit kept repeating them like a warning beep. That's discernment. And if you're honest, you've been second-guessing that discernment because you didn't want to seem paranoid. You didn't want to accuse anyone. You didn't want to make a big deal. But chosen one, your peace is a big deal. Your future is a big deal. And that's why Archangel Michael is speaking. Now, micro-memory, and listen closely. There was a night, not long ago, when you stood in your kitchen with the lights low. Maybe you didn't even turn them on. The house was quiet. Everyone else was asleep, or you were alone, and you didn't want anyone to see your face. You opened your phone and stared at a message thread, one that should have brought comfort, but instead, your stomach sank, and you whispered something like, "God, please, I can't keep doing this." You didn't scream it. You didn't perform it. You just said it like someone who is running out of strength, and then you stared at the ceiling, trying to breathe normally, because tomorrow you still had to function. Chosen one. Heaven heard that whisper, and now heaven is answering it with protection. Stay with me until the end. I'm going to tell you what's been moving toward you quietly, how it tries to get close, and how Archangel Michael blocks it before it touches your life. Don't scroll. You made it here for a reason. Now listen carefully. The thing that has been moving toward you is not always a person. Sometimes it is an influence, a pattern, a trap, a spiritual pressure designed to pull you into a reaction you'll regret later. Archangel Michael says this clearly. The attack is not always meant to destroy you physically. It's meant to derail you emotionally. That's why you felt so exhausted lately, even when you technically rested. That's why your patience has been thinner. That's why you've had moments where you felt like your confidence just leaked out of you for no obvious reason. This is what happens when something is trying to sit near your spirit and drain you. And no, you are not weak for noticing it. You're waking up. There's a different vibration around your life right now. It's subtle. It's the kind of shift you can't explain to someone who hasn't lived inside your skin. It might show up as a conversation that feels normal, but afterward your chest feels tight. It might show up as a joke. Someone makes that lands like a blade. It might show up as people suddenly acting strange right when you started getting clarity. And chosen one, this part matters. When God begins to move you into a higher level of alignment, your environment reacts, not because the world hates you, but because what no longer fits begins to feel uncomfortable around you. That's why your circle has been shifting. That's why you felt less attached to old habits. That's why even entertainment that used to distract you now feels empty, because you're transitioning, and transitions feel like fog. They feel like you're not who you were, but you haven't fully stepped into who you're becoming. That in-between is where most people panic. And panic is exactly what the enemy wants. Because panic makes you rush. Panic makes you overshare. Panic makes you close the wrong door out of fear. Archangel Michael's assignment is to slow you down long enough for your spirit to see what your emotions can't. So let me reveal what's happening. There is a fork in your road. One side is familiar. It's predictable. It's what you've done before. The other side is unknown, but it leads to peace, progress, and a version of you that doesn't have to fight so hard. just to breathe. And the enemy is trying to push you back into the familiar side by making the unknown feel terrifying. That's why the atmosphere has felt loaded. That's why you woke up with heaviness. That's why the silence felt unusual. Because the turning point is near. Now don't scroll. Stay with me. I need you to hear this. Some of the loss you've felt recently wasn't loss at all. It was removal. There are people who were close to you, maybe even people you love, who were carrying an energy that was incompatible with where God is taking you. And you kept trying to make it work because you're loyal. You kept giving chances because your heart is deep. You kept explaining yourself because you didn't want conflict. But chosen one, the more you explain, the more you leak. And heaven is sealing you. Archangel Michael says, I am pulling you out of what would have drained you in the next chapter. That's why certain doors have been closing. That's why certain opportunities fell apart. That's why certain plans that seemed perfect suddenly stalled. It wasn't rejection, it was protection. And I know you don't like hearing that, because you wanted it to work. You wanted it to finally be simple. You wanted to finally rest. But you can't rest in a place that is secretly unsafe for your spirit. So heaven interrupted. Now, let's talk about the hidden danger that tries to sneak in at turning points. It often comes disguised as urgency. It whispers, decide right now. Respond right now. End it right now. Send that text right now. Quit right now. Confront them right now. And it feels like adrenaline. It feels like righteousness. It feels like finally taking control. But if it's not guided by peace, it is not from heaven. One of the biggest signs Archangel Michael gives you is this. When it's heaven, there is firmness, but there is peace. When it's a trap, there is pressure, but no peace. So if you've been feeling pushed into decisions that make your stomach twist, slow down. Stay with me. Right now. Here are the signs, only a few, because I'm not going to overload you. Sign 1. A sudden stillness that feels thick, like the air has weight. Sign 2. Vivid dreams that feel like messages rather than random noise. Sign 3. A repeating number pattern you keep noticing at key moments, like 11:11 or 4:44, right when your thoughts turn to your future. These are not superstitions. They are patterns your spirit recognizes because heaven is trying to get your attention. And there's one more sign that is gentle but powerful. A song. A line in a song that hits you like it was written for your exact situation. You're not even looking for it. It plays while you're driving, or while you're in a store, and one lyric lands so perfectly it makes your eyes water. That's heaven speaking in a way your mind can't argue with. Now, micro-memory vignette. There was a morning when you woke up earlier than you needed to. The room was dim. Maybe the sun wasn't fully up yet. You sat on the edge of the bed and just stared at your hands, like you were checking if you were real. Your phone lit up with a notification. Nothing special, just an app reminder or a random message, but your heart jumped anyway. Because your nervous system has been trained to expect bad news, and you thought, why can't I relax? Chosen one, because your spirit has been on guard. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Archangel Michael is lowering the threat level around your life. He's pushing back what's been pressing on you. He's guiding you away from an emotional breakdown you thought was inevitable. And here's the truth you need to anchor into. You are not being punished. You are being repositioned. And repositioning feels like shaking, because the old attachments resist being removed. But what comes next is clarity. In part 3, I'm going to help you release the guilt you've been carrying. Guilt that makes you second-guess your intuition and hold on to what God is trying to remove. Stay with me. Don't scroll. Chosen one. We need to deal with something heavy, because the enemy doesn't just attack your circumstances. He attacks your identity, and one of the most effective weapons against you has been guilt. Not the healthy kind that convicts you to grow, the toxic kind that keeps you stuck, apologizing for things you didn't do, carrying responsibility that was never yours. You've been thinking things like, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I should have tried harder. Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I should just accept less. That's not humility. That is a cage. And Archangel Michael says, you cannot walk into the next chapter if you keep dragging chains from the old one. So let's break them. The guilt you carry has made you tolerate what drains you. It's made you keep explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. It's made you hesitate when your spirit gave you a clear warning. And that hesitation, that delay, is how traps catch you. So hear me. You are allowed to trust what God put inside you. Your intuition didn't come from nowhere. Your discernment isn't imagination. That something feels off feeling is not you being negative. It's your spirit receiving information before your mind can label it. But guilt tries to override it. Guilt says, don't be dramatic. Guilt says, give them one more chance. Guilt says, stay quiet even when you're being harmed. Guilt says, keep the peace even if it costs your peace. Chosen one. No. Peace that requires your destruction is not peace. Now stay with me. Listen closely. There's a hidden truth you need to accept. Some relationships didn't break because you failed. They broke because you were growing. And growth exposes incompatibility. Some opportunities didn't fall apart because you were unworthy. They fell apart because they were unsafe. Because they would have cost you more than they gave you. And some delays didn't happen because God forgot you. They happened because timing is protection. That's why you felt held back at moments you didn't understand. That's why doors stayed closed when you begged. That's why the easy way didn't work. Because easy isn't always safe. Now, one of the hardest things you've been carrying is the fear that you'll miss what's meant for you. You've said it quietly. What if I mess it up? What if I choose wrong? What if I'm too late? What if I lose my chance? Chosen one. Your life is not one fragile thread. God is not waiting to punish you for a mistake. He is guiding you. But you do have to participate. You do have to slow down. You do have to stay aligned. That's why this message matters. Now I want you to do something with me, just in your mind. Imagine you're holding a heavy bag. It's filled with old conversations, old disappointments, old shame, old regrets. You've been carrying it so long you forgot it was heavy. Now imagine Archangel Michael stepping beside you, calm, steady, and placing his hand on that bag. And in a voice that doesn't shout, he says, "Give it to me." You don't have to fight everyone. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to defend your worth. You just have to release what is not yours. Feel it, like a pressure easing in your chest, like your shoulders dropping, like the air in the room warming slightly, not because the temperature changed, but because your spirit stopped bracing. That is what release feels like. Now, micro-memory vignette. There was a time you apologized to someone who hurt you, not because you were wrong, but because you wanted the tension to stop. You wanted peace. You wanted the arguing to end. You wanted to believe the best. And later, you sat alone and thought, why do I always do that? Why do I always end up carrying the blame? Chosen one, because you have a peacemaker spirit. But peacemakers need boundaries too. Archangel Michael is not only protecting your path, he's retraining your heart to stop negotiating with what violates your peace. Now, here is the inner correction. You do not have to keep access open to people who drain you. You do not have to keep doors open to patterns that broke you. You do not have to keep forgiving someone who keeps repeating the same harm without change. Forgiveness is release. Access is earned. That's the line you're learning now. And when you learn it, you stop bleeding in places you were never meant to bleed. Now we're at the mid-script moment. This is where we seal alignment with a simple action. If you want to claim protection over your turning point, do something small but intentional. Type in the comments, "I choose alignment," not as a superstition, as a declaration that you are done fighting what God is arranging. And yes, if this message is landing in your spirit, like this video and subscribe, so you stay connected to the warnings and confirmations meant for you. That's not about numbers. It's about staying near the signal. Stay with me. Don't scroll. Chosen one, you are entering the phase where things begin to reveal themselves. This is the part where hidden truths come to light, not with chaos, but with clarity. This is the part where you realize certain people weren't random, certain delays weren't wasted, and certain endings weren't failures. They were guardrails. Archangel Michael says the next few days will carry a gentle but undeniable movement. Not loud, not dramatic, but precise. You may feel it as a quiet confidence that returns to you without effort. You may notice you're not as triggered by what used to trigger you. You may sense that your heart is no longer begging for closure because heaven is giving you something better than closure. Direction. Now listen closely, right now. There is a reason you were warned not to skip this moment, because what is trying to reach you cannot reach you if you are covered in clarity. Confusion is the enemy's fog. Clarity is your shield. So here is how Archangel Michael protects you through a turning point. First, he strengthens your no. Not your angry no, your calm no. A no that doesn't argue. A no that doesn't explain. A no that simply closes a door and then walks away in peace. Second, he heightens your discernment. You'll start noticing what doesn't match. Words that don't match actions. Energy that doesn't match smiles. Third, he redirects you. You'll feel pulled away from a place, a conversation, a decision. Not with fear, just with a quiet don't. And chosen one, if you honor that don't, you avoid a trap you won't even realize you escaped. This is where I need you to understand the difference between paranoia and discernment. Paranoia is anxiety without direction. Discernment is peace with a boundary. You can be aware without being afraid. Now, let's talk about the signs briefly, because you don't need a list of 50. You need a few that are accurate. Sign 1. You'll notice a sudden calm right before important information arrives. It's like your nervous system quiets down and you don't know why. That's your spirit being stabilized. Sign 2. You may see a feather, small, ordinary, but placed in a way that feels impossible to ignore. Not magic, just a gentle nudge. You are covered. Sign 3. A door you thought was locked will open from the other side. A person reaches out. A resource appears. A chance returns. Something shifts without you forcing it. Sign 4. A light flicker or a subtle electrical glitch at a moment of prayer or decision. Not to scare you, just a physical echo of spiritual movement. A reminder, the unseen is active. That's it. That's enough. Now, I want to give you a protection protocol for the next few days. Not a ritual, a posture. When you feel pressure, do not rush. When you feel tempted to react, pause. When you feel confused, breathe. And speak this quietly if you want. Archangel Michael, guide me. Protect my path. Keep me aligned. That's not worship. That's asking for help, like you would ask a guard to walk you through a dark hallway. Now, micro-memory vignette. You've had moments where you almost sent a message, almost confronted someone, almost quit something, almost exploded, and something in you hesitated, just long enough to stop you. Later you realized, if you had reacted in that moment, you would have regretted it. You would have created damage you didn't have the energy to repair. Chosen one. That hesitation was protection. That was Archangel Michael's hand on your spirit saying, not like this, not now. Now, here's what's coming. There will be a moment soon where you're offered a choice, small on the surface, big underneath. It could be an invitation, a conversation, an opportunity, a decision, and the right choice will feel calm. It won't feel frantic. It won't feel like you're being chased. And when you choose it, you'll feel something like warmth in your chest, like the room itself softened. That's your confirmation. Stay with me. Don't scroll. Chosen one, you're here. And this is the part your spirit has been waiting for, because warnings without hope are just fear. But heaven doesn't send fear. Heaven sends guidance, and guidance always includes a door forward. Archangel Michael says, the turning point is not coming to break you. It's coming to separate you from what was draining you, and separation is a blessing. Now listen closely, right now. Within the next 24 hours, you'll notice one of these shifts. Either your mind becomes quieter, like the internal noise finally lowers, or you get a small confirmation, a message, a sign, a sudden opening that makes you think, okay, I'm not imagining it. Within the next 7 days, a bigger alignment begins to show itself. A conversation that changes direction. A door that opens with less resistance than before. A new opportunity that feels surprisingly clean. No drama, no manipulation, no confusion. And the main proof will be this: peace. Because what comes from God might stretch you, but it won't poison you. Now, here's the breakthrough you're stepping into. You stop chasing clarity, and clarity starts finding you. You stop begging for love, and real support begins to appear. You stop trying to force doors, and doors begin opening from the inside, and you will look back and realize the strange heaviness, the quiet air, the tension in your chest. It was the warning light on the dashboard, not to shame you, to save you. Now, micro-memory vignette. Picture yourself a week from now. You're doing something ordinary, washing a cup, folding laundry, sitting in your car before going inside, and you realize you haven't felt that tight knot in your stomach for a while. The silence doesn't feel scary anymore. It feels safe, and you whisper, without forcing it, "Thank you." Not because everything is perfect, but because you can feel you're being guided. Chosen one, that's where you're going. Now, I'm going to bless this moment with a final seal. Simple, not complicated. May your path be protected. May hidden traps be exposed before you step into them. May the wrong connections lose access to your spirit. May your discernment sharpen without fear. May your heart stay soft and your boundaries stay strong. May your next chapter open cleanly, peacefully, and in perfect timing. And now, your final step. If you're ready to walk forward covered, type in the comments, "Amen. My path is clear." And yes, this is the final CTA. Keep it simple. Like this video to mark agreement. Subscribe so you stay connected to the messages meant to guide you, and share this with one person you feel led to, because sometimes the protection you receive today is the protection someone else has been praying for. Don't scroll past your own turning point. You are covered, you are guided, and you are not walking into the next chapter alone.